That's one of those memes that resonated so well with me when it was like, things you learn as an adult. Way more people are doing cocaine than you think there are.
We're not recording yet, right?
Yeah.
Welcome to the Rewatchers on the Pod. You're here with me, Tyler Harris, and
Gwen Hammer,
Justin Hammer,
and our special guests,
Juliana Boulter or Jules.
I'm just going to say Zach, because no one really is going to care.
Oh, a
I
mystery.
Yeah.
You're going to be the first. Yeah, everyone else says their last name. So I like this because you're like the masked man that is coming to our podcast.
Or like Madonna.
Beyonce, I prefer.
Well, this week, Jules and Zach picked Jurassic Park for us to watch. And so we did, because we're nice here. We accept, we're all about yes anding. But if you didn't get around to watching Jurassic Park, I have gone ahead and written a summary of every single moment of Jurassic Park. I'm going to read as quickly as possible so you'll be all caught up for our discussion. Ready? Here we go. The bushes rustle as concerned construction workers and Indiana Jones with a shotgun look on. A shipping container is lifted on the loading platform. Once the gate is open, something runs out, pushing the container in a way that my limited physics knowledge certainly can't explain. Shoot her! Shoot her! A lawyer forgets that every day is casual Friday in the jungle. The investors need experts, but good luck getting Grant out of Montana. Dr. Grant hates computers and loves to dig. An obnoxious 12-year-old heckles Dr. Grant's bird theory, so Dr. Grant fucking destroys the kid with his archaeological acumen. Turns out he has a personal vendetta against kids. Mr. Hammond takes a dramatic and celebratory entrance. Then he makes a decent proposal and invites them on a weekend getaway. Dodson arrives in Costa Rica, but trust me, no one cares. Dennis is delighted by this secret agent shit. Is Dr. Malcolm the Chris Angel of math? Josh Williams puts to rest any idea that he is, John Williams puts to rest any idea he is less than a god. A kid in a candy store ain't got nothing on archaeologists in a Jurassic Park. Mr. Hammond shows them how he did it. Mosquitoes saved the dinosaurs. Scientists work together to brute force their way out of an expensive presentation. All the dinos in Jurassic Park are girl dinosaurs, but Dr. Malcolm lets them know that life finds a way. Raptors are the valedictorians of dinosaurs. Dr. Malcolm airs his concerns about Hammond's cavalier attitude towards nature. Turns out it's bring your grandkids to work day. Excuse me. Dr. Grant is forced to face his greatest enemy, kids. Ray advises everyone to hold on to their butts. The doctors don't see a Dilophosaurus. A goat is laid on the altar of science, but maybe science isn't hungry. Malcolm explains chaos, boom, butterfly effect. Dr. Grant exits the vehicle. They come across a sick dinosaur. They have to cut the tour short for weather. Dr. Statler stays with the sick dino. Dennis totally didn't do anything shady. Turns out Malcolm's entire life is a study in chaos. The tour jeep comes to a full and complete stop. Dennis steals some dino embryos and makes a run for it. Arnold forgets to say the magic word. The tourists get bored. The goat disappears and makes a dramatic partial reappearance. The lawyer has really got to go. Thaddeus Rex is coming out of his cage and he's doing just fine. The kids make sure Thaddeus knows exactly where they are. Dr. Grant has to decide whether to delight in the destruction of his greatest enemies or fight against his one true love, dinosaurs. He chooses to save his enemy. The lawyer is sacrificed to science. Thaddeus plays with his food. Dennis goes spontaneously off-road and loses his glasses. Dennis attempts to domesticate a Dilophosaurus. It doesn't work. Tim is stuck up a tree. Grant and Tim race a jeep to the bottom of the tree. Statler finds Malcolm. They find the other car. Thaddeus finds their car. Grant joins the Brachiosaur choir. Hammond is already working on the second draft of Jurassic Park. Ellie lectures him about respecting power. Alan and the kids are woken up by a Jurassic alarm clock. Alan Grant learns that life really does find a way. Hammond attempts to troubleshoot the situation. Malcolm's remains unaffected by his injury. Ellie and Muldoon are being hunted. Hammond walks Ellie through rebooting security. Alan Grant dad jokes on those kids. Ellie turns the fences back on. Tim learns how to fly. Ellie is attacked by raptors. Arnold tries to give her a hand. Muldoon reveals that game really does respect a game. Tim finally counts to 3. Ellie and Alan are reunited. Lex and Tim spoil their dinner and are hunted by raptors, so they hide in the kitchen. Life finds a way to open doors. Lex tricks a raptor. Lex hacks the door locks, but Life finds a way around the doors. The doctors and kids ruin an expensive museum exhibit. Thaddeus comes to the rescue, and Grant lets Hammond know he can't endorse the park. Everyone's still alive. Helicopters to safety, and Grant's enemies have become his friends.
That was so impressive.
That's all of Jurassic Park.
Man.
I really need to edit these a little more. I'm like halfway through and I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ.
You're taking your pulse and it's just like way up there. I shouldn't be doing cardio.
I'm looking forward to the time where you literally pass out because you haven't taken a breath yet.
That's when we watch the entire Lord of the Rings. It's an hour long.
You should just have like the backbeat to like Eminem's Rap God going on as you're doing this.
By the way, we're going to stop right now. We're going to have Jules do Rap God.
No,
Yes,
no,
please, thank
no,
you.
we're not
Yes,
doing that.
that'd be
We're not doing that.
She can do that.
It's the even wider than Eminem's version.
That's my favorite version, actually. It's the wider than Eminem version. So, Jules, Zach, why Jurassic Park? Why did you guys choose this movie to watch this week?
It was actually like there were several that we were trying to decide between.
Yeah, it's strange because today is February 2nd, Groundhog Day.
Yes.
yeah.
And so we're talking about Jurassic Park.
Yes. To be fair, Groundhog Day came out in 1993 and Jurassic Park came out in 1993. So it's basically the same, right?
That's right.
They're very
Exactly.
similar movies.
Movies from 1993 have a very distinct style.
They're all the same.
It's so funny. Yeah, we thought like we're gonna get one shot at this.
Yeah.
Let's go for it.
Let's do the best movie. I love Jurassic Park. It was one of the first like PG-13 movies I was allowed to see as a child. Nice. And to me, I always say that like what Star Wars is to a lot of people, Jurassic Park is to me, because that was the first thing that I watched and I was like, oh, dinosaurs are real. And when I first saw it, it was so scary that it wasn't like a favorite movie. And I probably didn't like jump it up to like one of my very favorites until it actually came out again in 3D, like what, 10 years ago or something like that.
Oh, has it been that long?
I don't know.
Oh, no.
Oh, it's okay. Maybe it was more like 8 years ago.
There we go. Last year?
Sure. But yeah, to me, it just took something that was always just fun to read about and made it absolutely real. And T-Rex still is real, and I rest my case.
We watched it 2 hours ago. Just to, like, we wanted it fresh.
Yeah.
And like we still cheered at the end when the flag came or like when the banner came down. We're like, yeah. It's like, what?
Yeah.
I always say that at the Oscars every year, they should still give like the best effects go to Jurassic Park. You still have not done better than the scene in the rain where T-Rex comes out.
It's so good.
It's so
It
good.
holds up too.
So well.
Yeah, that's the moment for me this time watching it is just when the theme kicks in when they're flying in. I'm like,
Yes.
holy shit. Like, this is like stirring up feelings in me that it takes me back to being a kid. Like, it literally does. I feel exactly the same. And like, just the wonder and the excitement is unmatched. I love it. It's so
Totally.
good.
And I think mostly because of John Williams' score, it is able to capture like that difference between wonder that we all, like most of us have with dinosaurs. I'm sure there are people who have no interest whatsoever.
Why are you looking at me?
I don't know, because you're next to me and I love and appreciate
Zach,
you.
we know you hate dinosaurs.
Is this an intervention again?
Tell us, what did T-Rex do to you? But there's that wonder, but also that fear. And I think they do a really good job of going back and forth. And a lot of it is because of his music.
Yeah. I was thinking about that. I'm not a big one to listen to movie soundtracks. There are certain ones I absolutely will listen to. And as I was like going through that list, I was like, oh, these are all just John Williams soundtracks.
Yes.
Like, I feel like a great soundtrack or a really good soundtrack works together with a movie. And like a lot of times to me, those soundtracks, they feel incomplete without the visuals, and the visuals feel incomplete without that music. John Williams scores are just a gift to anyone who gets to put their visuals to them, because they can absolutely stand on their own as like really incredible pieces. I mean, I just think of like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Jurassic Park. What other soundtracks exist?
None. Those are the they just use them for every other movie.
Yes, they should. For some reason, they don't.
Pirates, maybe? Pirates has a pretty good...
Pirates is pretty
does.
good. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
With some Hans Zimmer in there.
Yeah.
I love Field of Dreams and Meet Joe Black. I'll add those.
Yeah. I took an editing course and they said never put like a temp track of John Williams music in there because you will never get any kind of music ever that would compare. And so you're shooting yourself in the foot using that as a temp track. By the way, we deep dived into the history, the making of.
Oh, good.
And just so like
Yeah.
we are gonna bore you guys to crazy. It's
We've
just
got
like
notes.
Oh, God. That's great.
I'm sending you
here
links.
for it.
Yes.
I'm sending you links to like things that we've researched,
Great. I love that.
and then we're gonna pull it back just a little bit, just so we're not those people.
Yeah, and they're like, yeah, it's okay. It's an okay movie.
Set expectations up.
Play it
Really?
cool. Play it cool.
Pretend you liked it.
Anyway, here's the diagram.
But one of the things that we talked about with the score is one thing I kept noticing with this, because I'm kind of a nerd about scores, because I used to, that it was like what I wanted to be when I grew up, and now I'm just boring.
Still can be.
A score.
But-
Yeah, she wanted to be a score. Let John Williams do his thing with me.
Tattoo it across my entire body, John. He's like, I'm a tattoo artist. I don't care.
You can do anything. Cue music.
But one of the things that I love about John Williams and Steven Spielberg going hand in hand is because I feel the same way with Spielberg stuff can stand on its own most of the time without music. I hate when I'm watching a movie and you can tell that the score is standing there in place of any sort of like good filmmaking. And there are so many moments in Jurassic Park, like the whole scene in the rain when T-Rex comes out, no music happening right there. There's just none. In the tree, when the car is getting ready to go, there's like a huge moment. It's not till it starts going that the music starts. And I love that time to breathe and that time to have them build up their own emotion and that tension without it being like, rah, rah, rah.
Oh my God. It's like when you have movies nowadays, like every single second is accounted for with some kind of music that's trying to manipulate you into like what your emotions should be, right? And then they just let it breathe, and it's just like slow clapping masterclass, and you don't even realize you're holding your breath until the music comes in, and then you have to hold it even more because it's action that's happening. Yeah. But the real reason we want to come here and talk today is about the length of Muldoon's shorts.
I mean, who here is like in love with Muldoon? Is it just me? Am I the only one who's hot for Muldoon?
He is, man, what a guy.
He is a real man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, and it's about equality. His shorts are the same length as Ellie's, and I am into it.
That was a good read.
Also,
Great
the lawyer has the same amount of short length.
The lawyer is wearing shorts with his suit coat when he shows up there.
Yes.
Wouldn't you though? Like,
I mean, I guess if I'm a fancy '90s lawyer,
gotta be professional on top,
I
but
need to be
functional on the
respectful,
bottom.
but also breathe.
I'll be honest, though, I don't know why he's so married to the coat. Like, I don't know. The coat is gone for me, like, immediately. But I don't know.
I maybe that's like if you didn't have a mullet in the '90s, that's the way you have like the business in the front, party in the back. It's like business on top, party on bottom.
I mean business, but I'm not all business. You know, that's what it's all about.
But like, all right, so that's going a little ahead, but like we're talking about the deaths in this movie and like how they kill people, but why they kill people. None of these deaths were needless. They set these up so that like you felt it and you're like, okay, I could justify that, right? The way they justified the lawyer's death is one, he's a lawyer, which for some reason was like open field for like lawyer deaths in the 90s.
Like in Hook, which was Spielberg from '91, they made a lot of lawyer jokes, kill the lawyer and stuff like that.
So it's just a Spielberg thing.
Yeah, he's like, I hate lawyers.
Oh man. And so like, oh, man, but at the same time that this is going on, John Williams and Steven Spielberg are also making Schindler's List.
Oh, wow.
I
even
didn't.
know
Yeah,
that.
I didn't know that. That
crazy.
was
Yeah,
happening
that
at the
came
same
out in
time.
'93 too. Schindler's List
Holy
did.
shit.
Yeah, so they filmed Jurassic Park, and Steven Spielberg immediately left to go film Schindler's List, and so they're sending over dailies of edits, and they're like, he's so emotionally drained that it's just like, so they're like, some of this was seeping over. I don't mean to like make something more than it is, which I am doing. Right now.
What you're saying is that Schindler's List and Jurassic Park are in the same cinematic universe.
It's symbolic. It's
Right,
symbolic.
yeah. Jeez.
Oh man, I brought this
Have
whole
you seen
podcast
Kung
down.
Fury?
No.
Oh man. Well, yeah. Never
Oh,
mind.
Kung Fury. Yes.
Yeah.
I think you said Kung Fury, and then I was thinking Come See Me. Anyways, yes, I have seen Kung Fury. Yes.
Okay.
Triceracop.
Yes. All right. Yeah. That's the marriage of Jurassic Park and Schindler's List.
The keystone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we could do a whole blog about this with like flow charts.
Red ribbon.
Yes.
Yeah, but you were talking about the deaths.
That's right.
Well, I am passionately opposed to Jurassic Worlds and passionately for Jurassic Park. And the deaths is one of my big things. Like
fair.
how many people die in Jurassic Park? Did you keep track?
I didn't, honestly.
Gwen's got this. Keep going, Gwen.
Count it. She's counting it.
I can't remember.
It feels like a lot, but it's only
5 or 6.
Yeah, it's only 5. Oh. It's only 5. Whereas like Jurassic World, I didn't care about anybody, and they killed like hundreds probably.
They like needlessly killed the babysitter who was just trying to do her job.
In a horrible way,
In a horrible
too.
way.
Was she the one who got tossed around by the...
Yeah, that's messed up.
Yeah.
Whereas here in the lawyer, like he ran away from the kids. He wore shorts. He
was a lawyer.
Yeah, he's a lawyer, and then like his coward acts like, oh yeah, I can allow this death, which was the first one.
Right.
That besides the poor guy at the very beginning.
Who does that cool thing, getting like dragged
Oh
up
my gosh,
to the top of the...
Yeah, that's a cool death.
That is a real cool one.
That is really neat.
That opening scene is crazy. The shot of him saying shoot her, that basically just looks like it's ripped out of a fucking Orson Welles movie is so incredible. I was like watching it, I was like, I've never noticed how amazingly like bold this shot choice is.
Yes!
It's so bizarre.
Well, and he's like making total eye contact.
Yeah.
It's the eyes of the raptor and then the eyes of Muldoon, and they're just like, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah.
And I just love it. It's his equal. It's so great.
I'm thinking about it now. Did they actually shoot her, or did they save her because the dinosaur is more valuable than that human life?
Oh, that's actually a good question. I don't know.
You hear shots, but I don't know if they like just
Tasers.
yeah. I don't know.
I like to think that that's the one that gets him at the end.
That's what I was thinking.
The that scene also was one of my favorite scenes on this watch. Just that the clever girl moment is so good because Muldoon even goes down. He's like, I've been out hunted.
Yes.
Been out hunted. I deserve this. Like,
they-
it's good.
They set it
death.
up so well with him when the T-Rex is chasing them in the car with Muldoon like smiling afterwards. Like he just loves this shit. Like he's really upset at what Hammond's doing with all of this, but he's like, but I'm here for it. Me and my great quads are here for it. So yeah, I'm hot for Muldoon for sure.
Oh yeah. Really, we were talking about this, and the moral of this entire story is to pay your software people
More money. Yes.
That's
Yeah.
absolutely.
I'll just
Justin,
take-
that's your next argument for a raise.
Gonna go into work
I need a
tomorrow.
raise, or else Jurassic
Have you seen
Park.
Jurassic Park?
I have a whole presentation.
No, you just have to like stand in front of them, like, "Hey guys, where are you going? Anyone get a soda?" And then they were like, "Let's give this guy a raise."
Like I feel like something bad's gonna happen. I'm going to the vending machines. No, for real. You should just. How much? I mean, what was
did
he
it cost?
asking for? You know,
I mean, 150,000.
I mean, he was getting a couple million.
That's
what,
like
from the
$1
people.
billion today, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's so funny because like Hammond's like spare no expense except for the one person.
They can ruin everything.
Yeah, and they have like this. Everyone's running. It's like a summer camp. Everyone has like different hats, and it's just like
But Hammond's blown it all on nice ice cream.
Yeah, you know
Like
what?
this is Haagen-Dazs.
this is Bluebell.
It was 1993. No one knew what a computer was. He didn't understand.
Oh my
True.
gosh.
That's
The
true.
computer sequence at the end. This is Unix. I know this. I'm a hacker.
It's floating through.
And like when I was watching it, I didn't know. I was like, is that what computers are?
I always love in movies when someone's doing like coding or whatever, and it'll show like the big red button on there that says execute.
Yeah.
I could do that. I could be a software developer. It's got like
Oh
buttons.
man. We watched The Net with Sandra Bullock.
Oh,
and that
fantastic.
it was all fantasy.
so ridiculous.
So ridiculous. Just like the computers that are on that program. It's
Yeah.
just like someone just like designed it in like Illustrator. Like, there you go. Move your mouse here, and we'll cut away before you click it. Because like
Because we don't know what it's going to do.
we don't know.
yet.
It's from the future.
We don't know what computers are.
She took her laptop to the beach. Give it a second.
It's gonna have. You don't have sex on the beach, and you don't take your laptop.
Yeah, your modem will
Sand
never.
gets everywhere in both of those situations.
So we've heard.
Really kills the fun. Yeah, that's yeah. Yeah, so let's talk about some of the other deaths, because I do think that's an interesting, like, all those deaths do feel earned. Newman, his name, Dennis Nedry,
Yes.
I mean, he gets, you know, for doing his backdoor dealings and all that bullshit, he gets probably one of the worst I hate that one. That was the one that, as a kid, I was like, holy shit. That dinosaur looks so nice, and then it's very not nice.
And the sound he makes, the little like chirps, are swan. It's a swan noise that they use. And then they change it to, shoot, I looked up all of the different animals they used for the dog or the dinosaur sounds. But yeah, they change it to something like mean. And you mentioned in your thing at the beginning that Dennis loses his glasses. Did that like impact you emotionally?
Honestly, it's every time I hear the phrase like, "Oh, my glasses," I'm just like, help them.
Me too.
They are so helpless.
Me too. My little brother and I are that way. We're always so sad. And we're the only people in our family who wear glasses. Like, we wear glasses, but we're like, no, they're useless without their glasses. They're going to die.
Oh, so we are a recipe for disaster. We both have bad eyesight. And then I made the mistake of showing her the Twilight Zone where the guy had... Yeah.
Where the books and the glasses.
There was time.
Yes.
And he breaks his glass, like there's an apocalypse, and he's the only one that survived, but he finally has time to read all those books and eat. And it's like, Monday? Or not Monday? Like, January 2003? I'm doing bad at this right now. But anyways, it's just like, and then he breaks his glasses, and she's like, why would you show me this?
And I already knew what was going to happen is the thing, but watching it, I'm like, the glasses.
Feel our pain. Yeah, anyways, like, it was enough for, like, when he lost his glasses, and he was like, he needs his glasses. What's a my girl? Yeah,
and he's a big dude, too. You know, I always feel bad when, because, like, you know, you always see big people getting, like, made fun of and stuff. But they, like, balance it, because he's, you know, he's been an asshole. But then right before the dinosaur gets him, he's like, stick, stupid. I'm going to run you over on my way back down.
They do a good job of letting you feel okay killing this person.
And I mean, also, he does put shaving cream just on a piece of pie at the beginning. Someone's probably going to eat at some point.
I wrote that down. There are so many things that show that Dennis is just an asshole. Where did I put it? Because I was like, oh yeah, and that was one of them. Like the shaving cream on the pie, making fun of Dodgson for just trying to do his job.
Yes,
you know?
I'll say it, the wallpaper on his computer is just the sleaziest bullshit.
Like animal print.
They do just enough to outweigh the glasses thing. Like the glasses thing like pulls it so far into the like, but look at this guy, he's kind of a piece of shit. You know? And it's okay.
One thing I read, the Dilophosaurus stuff, like the venom that he shoots at him, that was just something Spielberg made up. He was like, let's do that. And the frills, like, let's make that up too.
No!
But yes, the frills aren't
my
real.
childhood.
I'm so sorry. I should have told you. But the stuff that he shoots, I guess it's a mixture of a few things, but KY jelly is one of those. And that's the exact like reaction I would make if someone like squirted KY jelly on me. It would be the face that Dennis makes.
And then you die.
And then you're like, my eyes.
So
what am I doing? I need to get out of here.
This is not a good situation.
So he was actually the very first person who was cast.
Really?
In Jurassic Park.
Okay.
He saw them in Basic Instinct.
Yeah, Steven Spielberg saw Basic Instinct.
Yeah, and he's like, I love that guy. Like, so that's my guy.
Because it's that scene where Sharon Stone, like, crosses her legs and she's not wearing underwear, and or whatever his name is, Wayne Knight, on that. He's, like, sweating and just, like... Perfect.
That's the scene in Spielberg.
That's the guy.
I bet that guy nervously talking about going to a vending machine will be gold.
He's the
right. That seems amazing.
He's the first one. Everything else will work itself out.
Wayne Knight is the centerpiece holding Jurassic Park
the
together.
Keystone.
That's got to be like the worst thing though for actors. Like, I wrote a perfect part for you, and it's like, thank you.
You're the perfect guy who gets killed and ruins everything for everyone.
Fat, overweight goof. Like, it's perfect for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Like for
there's money involved, right?
Thank you.
Imelda Stanton, who when people kept telling her she would be good for Umbridge, and she was like, Toad-like lady, thanks.
Thank you.
Gosh, yeah.
The person everyone hates more than Voldemort. Thank you so much.
Hey, but now she gets to be the queen, so it all works out.
That's good. That's a good point.
Good point.
You know, that's a good growing up period.
What did Wayne Knight get?
Newman.
Okay.
Right? Because
Yeah.
he wasn't playing Newman yet.
No.
Was this probably? Oh, crazy! That's
Yeah.
weird.
Wait,
I think
about that.
maybe
it's
I need
around
to-
the same time. I
maybe
think.
I need to check.
1993. That's right.
Seinfeld started in 1993.
Did it?
I have no idea.
Okay.
It fits with the
It
theme.
is stylistically similar to Schindler's List, Jurassic Park, and Groundhog
It's the
Day.
same. It's the same. Dennis, this was
Hello,
this is
Nedry.
what what he was doing prior to working at Jurassic Park. You know, he was like going by Newman. He's like, I'm changing my name. I'm not working the postal service anymore.
So here's the other thing: at the very end of this movie, when like we saw this as kids, so we're like, oh yeah, we're totally relating to the kids and their experience, right?
Yeah.
But now seeing this older, you think it'd be like, oh, I'm relating to Dr. Grant. No, I'm relating more to Hammond, and his like he tried. He put everything into this thing and it failed. He's like, damn, you know? And then like he's looking off the window outside because like everything he planned for died. And I'm like, I relate to that so much with my YouTube channel that I'm trying to get off the ground. I'm trying to get some Instagram followers so I can be an influencer because that's what you need.
And it's also darker because now he's going to get sued. He's going to get sued.
Oh,
'cause
yeah.
the
$20
reason
million.
5 people died.
Yeah, this is like if your Instagram killed 5 people. Which I'm not
I've
saying
told
it hasn't.
you.
I'm not doubting its power.
We need locking mechanisms on the Instagram doors. Muldoon is the best, by the way. The only one who thought of locking the cars.
Yeah.
I'm just going to bring this back to Muldoon every
No,
time.
I think you got to. He's your center. Yeah, he's your constant.
I will say, like, everyone in this movie, whoever cast this movie, it's just perfect. Like, Sam Neill is wonderful. Laura, I mean, I love, I don't think I've seen anything that Laura Dern's in that I don't like, so that's,
Solid
I probably
in
just
this.
really like Laura
Good
Dern.
on her.
But she is so good in this.
She's perfect.
Her scene with Hammond, like, when they,
Yes.
at the ice cream, when he's like, next time I do this, and she's like, whoa, what? You know, like, that whole scene is so wonderful. And, like, yeah, and her scene turning on the power. That's another thing I want to talk about. That sequence of, like, her turning on the power while they're climbing over the fence has always stood out to me as, like, one of the most anxiety-inducing scenes, because it's like, yes, I want them to get the power back on, but like
Not
they
now.
don't know. Yeah, and it's like this, but she's also in danger, and I'm like, so she has to do it now, or she's, you know, it's like it's such an incredible like sequence from this movie that is just, it's so good. I just love every minute of it.
And I love that they do a pretty good job with the timing on it. Like I always get bugged when it's like we only have a minute and it's 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm like, geez. And
You're
yeah,
cutting 13 times.
Yes.
And everyone's sweating profusely.
you're like, what's happening with time? And it is a little cheesy that the perimeter fence is the very last one at the bottom. Like convenient.
yeah.
The other thing that kind of was driving me crazy this time is that they were going to turn it on and they were going like from green to red, and that seemed wrong.
It should be red to green.
It's fair, yeah.
Well,
Like
maybe-
as a user experience, like the UX design on this entire park was just crap.
Everything should be red.
He wasn't
That
paying.
sounds bad.
He wasn't paying Dennis enough money. He was in charge of everything.
Dennis is like, yeah, I'm sure I want it to look red.
Like,
That way
whatever.
they'll need me.
I mean, yeah.
But you're so right. It's so good with that. And Tim gets like some zingers, some really great lines in this. The little boy,
Yeah.
like, him
It was so good.
Him getting like blown off that fence is so heart wrenching.
Yeah. And that moment when he wakes up is just like 3.
Yes!
It's such the perfect, like, just diffusion of, like, all that tension and, like, oh, he's okay. Like,
Yeah.
it's just
Yes!
it's such a great moment.
Oh, it's so good.
I do want to talk, those kids, too, like, I feel like, I don't know if it's just because recently the trend with kids in movies is to be like, they're just little adults.
Yes.
And kids aren't little adults, at least in my experience. I, of course, don't have kids. But that's what I love about the kids in this movie. They're written like kids. And Jules, you were mentioning like Steven Spielberg, like directing kids. Like that scene after Grant and Lex have climbed down and she's just like in shock.
Yes.
It really feels like she is in real shock. Like she is just lost in that moment. And it's so like heartbreaking and like such a great performance. But yeah, I think so much of that comes from the directing and like Steven Spielberg working with kids in that way.
Totally. And she was cast, like, part of the audition was just seeing which of these, like, girls he was looking to cast could scream in a convincing manner. And she was the only one that, like, she screamed. And I guess it was, like, Steven Spielberg's wife or something came running because she thought something was wrong with their kids. Like, so it was so convincing that that's why she got cast.
No.
So like, you were talking about something that I said off previously. Something great I said.
Oh yeah, you were saying that you were like very aroused in the showing of Cats you went.
Justin, let's go ahead and pause right there.
I just wanted to say I also felt that when I saw the Raptors in this movie.
That's why your new nickname
Something's
is
different.
Raptor. Is Utah Raptor.
Yeah, those were very clever girls. Very clever girls. I could only hope to find a girl so clever.
But yeah, the kids are really good. And Tim, he actually auditioned for Hook for the part of like Jack, but he was too young. And Steven Spielberg said, like, you're really great and I'll have another movie that I would love to cast you in. So I think he's also great at like really recognizing talent, which is a huge part too. But I think like talking, and the kids too, and this is with all of the characters, I think, they all have times where they do something stupid and also where they redeem themselves, you know, where they have something they know. And so it's very balanced, but you're also not like angry at people the whole time. You know, you're mad at Lex for the stupid flashlight in that T-Rex time. You're just like, turn.
Screaming at her internally.
It. But then she saves the day with the computer. Like, it's like, I know this. And so
I'm a hacker. I love they did a good job of setting that up, but also she's a hacker in the 90s.
Yeah, that's it's just a troubling time to mention computers.
Like a hacker in there that means you can get on AOL.
Yeah.
That's it.
With the floppy disk. It's like prior to CDs. You know, it's like, I can't afford a CD-ROM.
We've talked a lot about the computers in this movie, but that, like, the software design, the UI of the file structure as this 3D thing that she actually, like, navigates
It's like
into
floating through.
is
I know.
so amazing. It reminds me, if you guys watch Community?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I
It
am.
reminds
I'll
me of
speak for her.
Okay, it reminds me of the VR, when Greendale gets VR and they have the whole file thing, which is a bunch of really tall file cabinets. The dean is like going through all of his actual files in virtual reality because that's like exactly what this is. It's like, oh yes, that file lives in this house. Navigate down the street. Like, it's so funny.
Well, and that scene's so great because you've got everyone is occupied. Like Alan and Ellie are like they're at the door, and there's like I can't reach the gun.
Reaching for the gun with their foot. We're like, oh no!
And then Tim's there flapping his hands up and down, going like, yeah.
That's literally what we do every time. We're like, we're about to get in an accident. We can't control anything.
Like it's just he's go get the gun, Tim. Go get it.
Useful.
You and Lex like shoved a raptor into the freezer just earlier. You clearly
You are no longer children. You battled. You're raptor born now. That's your medallion on your chest. You know, but like now all of a sudden he's just reverting back. That must have been like the first scene that they shot, and now the rest of the movie played out.
He was in shock.
that's gotta be
Chronologically,
it.
he wasn't there emotionally.
He's in
Yeah,
shock, but it's hard for us to tell because no one came and put a blanket around his shoulders, which is the like international sign for shock in a movie. Like, oh, they have shock. They need a blanket.
Yeah.
Get him a blanket.
To be fair, you need a blanket most times.
Yes, I'm always in a state of movie shock.
I think that's the thing is like he's in shock. What won't hurt him? A blanket. Duh. It doesn't ever hurt a situation.
Like, you want this? Heat shock. I'm in heat shock.
I don't want a blanket.
I mean, I imagine if you throw a blanket on someone who's drowning, like that doesn't necessarily help the situation.
That's
but
that's like healthcare in the 50s. I feel like this could hurt.
you've got a cold, so we've got to hold you under until it decides to leave.
Also, we'll bleed you while you're there.
Yeah, they're drowning. I'm like, help me. I was like, no, you're a woman. I'm sorry.
This is a woman thing. Every woman's got to do it.
Sorry, that's from the preamble. That's not me just dancing on women.
Well, it's okay. We already talked about feminism in the shorts thing, so we're good.
It's so
We're
funny
good.
that they had that moment where like, oh, like Hammond's like, oh, obviously I should go because I'm the man. And then like they had the moment like, leave sexism at the door. And Multi was like, I don't care. I have to go Raptors. Can we save this? Like getting back to the depths. The one that's like just didn't like I was like I felt like robbed was Samuel L. Jackson's death.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I read something about that. So the whole arm thing was something that like Steven Spielberg was like, well, let's just do that. Because while they were filming this, there was an actual hurricane that happened. And in fact, people had to be rescued. And the person who like flew them off was on the team. And I forget what his name is, but he played Jock in Raiders of the Lost Ark. He's the one who comes to like rescue Indiana in that first scene. And so he was flying people like off to like save them. And he was like humming the Raiders of the Lost Ark theme as he was like rescuing them. But so there was this hurricane that happened, and they were supposed to have a scene where Samuel L. Jackson was running from the raptors, but all of the sets were ruined. And so it was just like, that scene's not happening.
Oh man.
Dang, that is a bummer. Yeah, I did think about that this time. Like, you just get an arm. That's all it is. But like, it's also one of those things where it's like, it reminds me of another Spielberg movie, but the head in Jaws.
Totally.
Like when that happens, it's like such a jarring thing. And again, it's one of those moments of like almost diffusing that tension, and then it's just like ratchets it up even more, that she's completely alone and everything. In there.
Totally.
But, yeah.
And it comes right after, like, she's turned the power on and she goes, Mr. Hammond, we're back in business. And then there's the raptor there. And then she runs back. And then there's the arm. She's like, oh, Dr. or Mr. Arnold. Ah! And then she crashes into the raptor again. Like, poor
It's a
Ellie.
weird emotion for her to have with a raptor at the gate. It's like, oh, finally, we're all safe. And it's like,
It is Samuel L. Jackson. I might feel the same way.
You bring up a good point.
He's tired all those motherfucking rounds.
And yeah, you go ahead.
oh, no. I don't feel like we reach peak Samuel L. Jackson. Like, this is like a ramp up for him. Like, he got huge here.
Yeah.
And then he started getting more and more, where he became the, like, snakes on a plane guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
But,
this is pre-Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Is it?
And all that. Yeah.
And we gotta like give props to Samuel L. Jackson for the talent of being able to keep that cigarette on his lips, like the tension that is built up with that cigarette. Just like, is it gonna be okay? Is it gonna fall?
That's like a Stanley Kubrick level of subliminal tension in the scene. Yeah. It's like- oh man. And that's the hold on to your butts. Like, I have this thing where like random lines for movies, there's probably like 30 lines that I will hear in my head just like on a weekly basis every once in a while. Hold on to your butts is one of those lines that is just ingrained in my mind.
Totally.
It's such a great line. It's such a great delivery. And like, no other character in that movie could say that line, but it's perfect for Arnold, like who he is and everything. It's so good.
It's so good. And you could say it like 50 times in a day. It's like applicable to so many situations,
Right. When should you, the real lesson is, when should you not be holding on to your butt? If you're in a situation where you're not holding on to your butt, you're not living.
Yeah. Are you a human being?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the Tao of Arnold.
The sequel to Wait to Exhale is Wait to Unclench.
There are a couple of moments that watching it again, I was realizing like things that always made me laugh, like since the first time I've watched it. And one of the things you said you had never thought about before is when at the very beginning where they've got the raptor like skeleton that they're unearthing in the Badlands, there's someone like picking the nose of the raptor with their finger. They're like taking the dust out and they're just picking the nose of the raptor, and it never ceases to make me giggle.
I've never noticed it. Now I can't unsee it.
You can't. It's how immature I am. And speaking of that scene, I've always thought it's amazing that that's in the Badlands. It's in Montana. And I love that Sam Neill, in Hunt for Red October, he always wanted to see Montana.
Which is also in the universe now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he got to see Montana.
That's amazing.
So that's all he wanted. He would have liked to.
Yeah. Also, there is a real Dr. Grant.
Oh, really?
There is a character, there is a paleontologist that they base Dr. Grant on.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And this screenplay, because this is obviously based on the book, Michael Crichton book, but Michael Crichton also wrote the screenplay, right? For this? Or
He did.
Helped with it or something?
He did, and they actually bought the rights to this before the book was like done and published. So I guess Michael Crichton had all these people coming to him because they were like, "Oh, this will be amazing! He's writing Jurassic Park, like little dinosaurs." Yeah. And different studios had different directors they wanted. Like somebody wanted Tim Burton. I can't remember the other ones.
Wow, would have that been
that would have been a weird movie.
James Cameron also was on, like, he wanted it.
Okay.
It would have been a much different movie.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But what Michael Crichton did when he knew all these people wanted it, he's like, we're not going to start a bidding war. We're going to set the price at like, I think it was $2 million for his manuscript. And then he's like, but I get to choose. And so he wanted Universal to do it because they wanted Steven Spielberg. And he's all about that. So yeah, they just started filming when he just had his manuscript done.
Yeah.
So
Also, Harrison Ford was up for Sam Neill's character, Dr. Grant.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But he said, no, it's not right for me. Which I think it is right for him. But
He could have done. He could do anything.
he could do anything.
It's interesting because I feel like Harrison Ford has like a natural charisma that I mean, Sam Neill is also charismatic, but like the way he plays his character at the top is not charismatic at all. The scene with the kid is still like one of those, I delight in it as an adult. I think it's amazing because like that age of kid terrifies me. Like I think they're the worst.
They're so mean.
Exactly. Yeah. And they just have no conscience about that shit. And so like his, like just being able to literally scare the shit out of that kid and just like talk about how he's just going to get eviscerated by a raptor is like the most savage thing he could have done. And just walking, just Ellie talking to him after that. And he's like, yeah, it's whatever.
Yeah, they
I don't feel any remorse.
She wants to have children with this guy. Anyways, that actor, that little kid, he's from Utah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. I think he either directed or he's in like a Imagine Dragons music video.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and there's stuff about like all of that kid stuff. Did you want to go into the subtext? The subtext of Jurassic
We deep
Park,
dived.
Zach?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Have you guys? So we found this. We were like on the webs and we deep dived and we found. I love that word deep dive because I keep saying it.
Deep dive, deep dive, deep dive.
Yeah.
Keep getting deeper every time you say it.
But there's like this guy at a pub in like England, and he's going about the subtext of Jurassic Park and how it holds up so much more 23 years later at the time of this recording, and then the Jurassic World had come out, and it's a year and a half later, and no one remembers the name of anyone. And they say they did. It's the reason they did it, and it's like as we were listening to this, we're like, this whatever. This is he's just gonna shoot him from the hip. It's like, yeah, obviously. And then at the end, we're like, well, maybe he's right.
He's got some good
He
points.
got some good points. But what he goes into, he talks about archetypes. Mm-hmm. He talks about mythology. He talks about good versus evil, and all these different things about how like the global story matches up with the local story of everyone that's going on. Well, specifically Dr. Grant and I can never
Ellie.
remember. Ellie, yeah.
Sattler.
Yeah. Laura Dern. Yeah.
Darn.
But the subtext is supposed to be about starting a family.
Yeah.
That it's all about like how Dr. Grant doesn't want kids. And he goes into it that it's all about like the first act is about, having a baby. And the second act is,
Yeah. So in the first act, they actually talk about like there's an ultrasound
that they look at.
Oh.
With the dinosaur that they're looking at.
Right. Yeah. When they fire the radar down into the,
Yeah.
And so Ellie's ready to go. It's like she's all for kids. She wants it. He's not ready. Yeah. And so we'll talk quickly about the parent part, and then we'll talk about, let's talk quickly about the good versus evil.
Yeah.
Right? So they have Mr. Hammond. What is Dr. Hammond?
Yeah, Mr. Hammond, I think.
He
He
didn't go to doctor school to be called Mr.
He graduated
doctor
from
school.
He graduated from
We also did not go to doctor school.
I don't even know what to call it. I'm clearly not qualified
don't
to
know.
go to doctor school.
So if you look at it, you have chaos versus control, right? So you have God versus the devil, and
Malcolm.
yeah, Malcolm or Jeff Goldblum is like he's in dark, all black. Hammond is all white. So Hammond is God. He comes into it like it's fantastic. We'll send you the link. It'll be in the notes. And like we're gonna spoil it here because we want to sound like we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're like give all these
Doctor
insights.
school.
We came prepared.
I have a doctorate in sounding like I know what I'm talking about.
It's from the University of Phoenix.
Only $90,000.
No offense to anyone who attended the University of Phoenix.
Can we still get a plug from that? If we talk about it negatively, dude.
They're the only sponsor that's ever reached out to us, unfortunately.
Like they mentioned us. Good enough.
Oh yeah, so chaos theory with the devil, and then Hammond. He's trying to world build. These are my children. I'm the first one that they see.
Yeah.
Like I created the DNA. Like there's so many references. Also, let's quote I'm so sorry. This is like the most tangential. And like, we're just like going all over.
We're getting all the dots. We'll connect them.
Yeah,
we can do it.
We'll get some yarn and connect him eventually. You know.
Yeah. Like, so from a video producing standpoint, like him interacting with himself in the video is like, this isn't gonna work.
Yeah.
You're shooting this one time. He's gonna do it maybe twice, and then like you have to redo the video because like there's no way he's gonna go for every ride.
Right.
But it does kind of show Hammond's like over enthusiasm, but not really thinking things through in the long term. He's just like, I'm going to be in charge of everything, and I'm going to be there at every single showing of this video. I'll be there. Not thinking about the future.
Yeah.
But going back to the big theory things of the subtext of like, so it's both about creation, right? Creation of like, and the responsibility of creation as parents, and also of creating a land full of dinosaurs. And that like it's nice that they match up. But it shows that Ellie's ready because like when they stop at the Triceratops, she goes over. She like when they go to it, they both talk about the Triceratops like it's a baby. Like they just had a child. Like it's the most beautiful thing. It's like it's the one thing I've always wanted, you know. And they're like they're so happy, and then she digs into the poop, which is like a thing like, oh, I gotta make sure it's, and then she stays with the child, like she's ready for that. And then Dr. Grant goes off and has his trial to become a parent because he's not ready yet. And so he has to go have that trial with his kids and to get that. And it's just like, we're listening to this, we're like, okay, he's making sense.
He's making some good points.
There's a good point.
He's shown, but it's interesting whether or not we talked about this, whether or not that's like actually true or was actually something they thought of. The fact that you can take Jurassic Park and you can like plug that sort of like allegory into it,
Right.
I think means that it's a good story and it's a lasting story because
And it's about something.
yeah, as opposed to just being like, watch what we can do with CG.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I like the idea, like you mentioned, it is rooted in like these mythological stories. Like it is, I mean, that's the hero's journey, right? The idea of like refusing something and then eventually you've accepted it and become something new by the end, which Dr. Grant does
Yes.
over the course of that movie. I mean, if you just look at the scene with that obnoxious 12-year-old at the beginning, and then you look at the scene where they're flying out at the end and he has a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old sleeping on his shoulder, essentially, you know what I mean? Like those scenes even just encapsulate that journey, at least the beginning and the end of it.
Totally.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
At the beginning, he has the raptor claw, and like he's a raptor. He like loves them. They're lone wolves. So they like to hunt, and then all of a sudden, it's like once he goes through all these different challenges, like he has this thing about the egg, like and how like its birth, and like so when the kids are being crushed, and then he comes over to save them, like he's helping to give birth to the kids.
Interesting. Okay, yeah.
And like I'll save some of this for the video. But one thing that he did talk about, which I thought was very interesting, is that this is a movie about human relationships, and the dinosaurs are helping to move the story along. It's not a movie about dinosaurs, because T-Rex is coming in, and he is being used at only very vital parts of the movie, right? He comes in, and he's the chaos that helps spur on Dr. Grant's like fatherly kind of like feeling of like protection and like I have to help these kids.
Yeah.
And then he comes in one more other time when I hate that like I watch so much TV I can recognize places from other movies. You know, when like when they're on like when all the ostriches are coming at them.
Gallimimus.
Yeah, there we go. You know, and then like, oh, that's where Lost. That's where they play golf.
That's amazing. I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's in Kauai, the fake Hawaii. It's like,
No offense to anyone in Kauai.
we also lost the sponsorship for Kauai.
If you are attending University of Phoenix in Kauai, we apologize like double.
You can edit this out, Justin, right?
We should talk about T-Rex for a
Just
minute.
do it. Go for it.
Because first of all, that scene in the rain is the most amazing thing ever. And they use T-Rex so well. It's so smart that it still looks good because everything is so smart. The way they go back and forth between animatronics and between CG. I was reading that the actual robot they used for T-Rex weighed 12,000 pounds. And they had to like make a big production anytime they were moving it because it's so big and it's like pretty terrifying. And they said that it, in some of the things I read, that it like reacted poorly to the rain and so there were times it would just like malfunction and randomly turn on. So like the crew, you could just hear people screaming, and it would be because like the T-Rex would just be like moving around with nobody doing anything.
And then the glass, like when it's coming down the glass breaks. That was not supposed to happen.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And they broke some of its teeth, like some of the teeth came out when they were doing that. So they tried to glue it back in, but you can see in a shot that there's like some missing teeth.
Which that's so funny because I always think of Jaws that Steven Spielberg also directed, which I don't think the animatronic shark worked at all once they started filming. Like it was broken literally the entire time they were filming. Like that feels like enough that it'd be like Steven Spielberg's like, fuck animatronics.
But it also saved that movie.
Yeah, exactly. For sure.
Did.
And I think that that does stand as a testament of like the importance of knowing what tools are best for the job. You know, as far as that movie still looks good. You know, and there's stuff you can go back to. I even think of the one I think of all the time because it breaks my heart is Return of the King.
Yes.
Unfortunately, now there are scenes in that look pretty bad.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You take that back.
I can't. Here's the thing.
Fight.
Fellowship of the Ring still looks great.
Solid.
Amazing.
Two Towers still looks great.
Pretty good.
Except for that with the orcs on the wolves.
No, that's The Hobbit.
Oh no,
that's
that
in
is
Two
I
That
know
is
what you're
The
talking
Hobbit?
about.
Is
I
it
haven't-
I'm out of here.
They're riding the wolves and they kick
Yes.
Aragorn off the
That's
cliff.
right.
Yeah, and then he goes on his vision quest. But there are specifically in at the Battle of Minas Tirith, some of the stuff with the Easterlings and the which that's a weird. I guess the Easterlings is a weird thing to say coming out of my mouth right now. Anyways, but also there's just moments in that. It's not the whole movie, but there are shots in that where it's like you can see Peter Jackson's journey into more computer-aided filmmaking
Yes.
by the end of that. And because of that, some of those don't look great. And then, unfortunately, I think Into the Hobbit, you can see some more of that.
Yes.
Way different for different reasons. Obviously, yeah, there's a million other things that are about The Hobbit that make it difficult to watch. But it is one of those things, and that is like Jurassic Park really is one of those things that holds up. And part of it, I think, is just the restraint with which those things are used.
Totally.
And like you were saying, they use them smartly at the right times. One of my favorite, and I think one of the things they do in this movie that's really smart too, is before you ever see a dinosaur, there's a good 45 seconds where you are seeing Dr. Grant and Ellie see a dinosaur for the first time.
Yes.
And they are so just like awestruck with everything that when you see it, you're also awestruck. And I think that it does a lot of work of bridging that gap between what may not look completely real or maybe hasn't aged as well, and just that feeling that you get because you're in that moment with the characters. You're basically told how to feel by the characters, and it works so well.
And going back to John Williams, like that section of the score right there it's not manipulative at all. It's like reverent almost. And it totally goes in. It's not trying to like get tears out of you. It's just like, we've already like set this up. So you're going to feel this way anyway. And I'm going to just go along with that instead of forcing you to be like,
I'm going to yes and you. I'm going to tell you what you're feeling right now is correct.
Yes.
You know, it is like an affirmation of like,
Yeah. I think a part that I love that still has the wonder part of it is like they've just survived a T-Rex. They're sleeping in a tree. There's a big brachiosaurus that comes up and like let's take a second and feed it. You know, it's like let's reel this back and just say like, oh, it's beautiful today. You know, it's like that's kind of nice, and that's kind of nice. What Steven Spielberg does, he gives you those moments to like breathe and to live in the moment and to wander and just to like, what would it be like? And I keep forgetting
Lex.
Poor Lex. Is her name Lex?
well, I think it's Lexi or
Lexi
Alexis
or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but like she always gets shit on. It's just like no matter
Or
what she,
sneezed on.
whatever, no matter what she does, it ends up poorly. Like I'm helping, I'm getting a light. Turn it off.
We're all up on the vents, but I'm going to be the one who falls through and almost gets eaten by the raptor.
Oh yeah, that's the part that you said scared you the most.
That was the scariest part for me as a kid when I first saw it. Just when that raptor comes up and almost gets her leg.
Yeah.
But yeah, she does always get the short end of the stick.
Until she saves the day.
Yeah.
Well, and that's another thing about this movie. Like even those moments where you can kind of breathe, they still have like these meaningful character moments. Like it really is a movie about the characters. Like everything about the action and the plot serves to like let you go on this journey with those characters and see them learning and growing, or like the stuff with Lex really is such a bummer. I mean, it's great that she has that moment at the end where she can redeem herself, because like, man, these dinosaurs suck. I'm fucking scared of all these dinosaurs. Like, okay, I'll touch it. And then just snot all over the face. Like that sucks.
Yeah, and then like they always have to mansplain to her which one is like a meat eater, which one's a veggie eater.
Yeah.
Tell it to me like I'm a 5-year-old.
But I'm a hacker.
She's a hacker.
Like Google in a few years you'll be able to Google which ones are. Speaking of that part that always scares me with like her falling through the vent, it's actually cool because that was a stunt woman, but they computer generated her face onto it.
Oh, wow.
And it still looks good.
Yeah, I didn't even know. Like, that's not a shot that I would be like, oh man, yeah, they did something there. Like, I'd never even think about it.
The only reason I know is, and this is another reason I really like Jurassic Park, it's one of the very first times that I watched on TV before it came out, like a making of all the things they did to make it. And so it was like a special on TV. And so they talked about all the animals they used to make the dinosaurs and all the things they did. And I just remember being like, ooh, about the guitar string that they had to use to make the water ripple effect because they weren't sure how to do it.
Yeah, that's an example of like Spielberg wanting something and like, yeah, sure, we could do that. And them not figuring it out until like the last second.
Yeah, the night before, they're like, we don't know how to make the ripples. And the guy over effects was just like trying everything, and he played his guitar and he's like, thank God.
That's a lot of like yes anding.
Yeah.
Like...
And then they put the guitar strings in the actual dashboard, and they just had somebody like on the ground like plucking the guitar.
So awesome.
Yeah.
I love stories about Spielberg's sets because I'm just like, anyone can make a movie. Literally, if you just like are willing to put the time and just effort, like I feel like that's so much of like the great stories I hear about Spielberg is like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And it's just a bunch of people are like, well, we have to do it.
We don't have an
we'll
option.
Just fucking do whatever we need to do it. And they do, and it's so good. Like,
same thing, you brought up Orson Welles, like the same thing with him. Like, there's all those stories about Citizen Kane being so good because nobody ever told him that they couldn't do stuff. He'd be like, we're going to light it this way. And people would be about to be like, we don't do. And they'd be like, shh. So they just do stuff no one had ever done before.
Yeah, they cut a hole in the floor so they get a lower angle.
it's amazing. That's like guitar string.
Got the guitar string.
You brought it with you.
But kind of going back to what you were saying, I think it's funny that Ian Malcolm has that, which we haven't even talked about. Ian, jeez. He's got that great line about like, you've spent so much time thinking if you could that you haven't stopped to think if you should. And that I feel has haunted the entire Jurassic World or Jurassic Park franchise, because no sequel, I don't think they should have done any of them. They've made so much money from them, but I still don't think they should have, because none of them have been good.
Yeah.
Even Lost World, the screenplay was still written by Michael Crichton. It was still directed by Steven Spielberg. I think John Williams, he still did the music. It's not good.
Yeah, it's not great.
And I don't know why, but it's just not good. It's just not. Ian Malcolm, let's take a minute.
Let's do.
Because I would just love to know who could do the best Ian Malcolm laugh. His weird laugh. In that
Wasn't
helicopter.
that like your ringtone one time?
It should be. He is.
Hold on, Zach.
No,
I'm busy. Stop calling.
I just need to channel more like Ian Malcolm doesn't give a shit about anybody.
Yeah.
That sort of energy is so great.
Also, I really give props to Dr. Grant for not being jealous. Because, like, he's in there. I mean, like, obviously, that or he's not present because he's watching for dinosaurs.
That's part of the problem.
As a guy and dressed all in black.
Yeah.
As a math nerd rock star is moving at his lady.
Is creepily caressing her hair. He, like, grabs her hair.
Yeah.
Am I talking too fast for you, or whatever he says?
Well, we haven't had Me Too yet, so he didn't know any.
That's true. It's the 90s. It's, you know.
Oh, man.
And that scene where he's like, his shirt is unbuttoned and he's like,
Why did
got
they
his
have
tourniquet
that?
and the light and he's all sweaty and you're just like, damn,
It's
Chef Goldblum.
because the internet has kind of ruined that moment for me, because I don't know if you've seen someone like photoshopped the shots of Dr. Grant like on the Triceratops on like Ian Malcolm's like bare chest, and every time I see that I just laugh laugh it's so hard because it's such a great thing.
Does it not make it better though?
Exactly.
Of course, yeah, it does absolutely. It enhances the experience.
Gwen, you've hit the nail on the head. Like, it hasn't ruined it. It's made it what it was always meant to be.
Much sexier movie in my head now.
The other thing I wanted to talk about was Phil Tippett's.
Oh,
I didn't know about.
You were legitimately upset about this.
I didn't find out about Phil Tippett's until like literally a couple months ago because I talk about Jurassic Park all the time. I'm not even kidding. And my little brother was the one to talk about Phil Tippett's, the dinosaur supervisor. Have you seen this?
Oh, yes, in the credits.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So his credit is dinosaur supervisor. And speaking of the internet, all these people were like, you had one job, Phil, and you didn't supervise those dinosaurs.
People
died. And I love him because he just like retweeted people and said like, to be fair, there were a lot of dinosaurs. But what I love about him is that he's a stop motion expert.
Oh, cool.
And so he was called on, he was going to do all of that. And then people from like Industrial Light and Magic?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They were like, oh, we could do this. And they showed Steven Spielberg what was possible. And Phil said to Spielberg, like, well, I guess like I'm extinct. He said, I'm extinct. And so that's why they put that in the movie.
He evolved.
Oh. I guess he was really depressed about it when he found out that all of his stuff wasn't going to be used. But it actually was great because they used him to like, he'd done all this research and he knew how they moved and stuff like that. And so they used his stuff to like flesh out what they were doing. And that's why it looks so good because they had that stop motion, action and
he was still under contract. So.
They had to do it. Yeah. They had to do it. But I just love Phil Tippett's for that. There were a lot of dinosaurs.
There was a lot of dinosaurs.
That's so amazing. Oh man, yeah. This it really is. There aren't many movies that I would say like feel like perfect movies. But
Yes.
I love the light that like came from that side of the thing. It really everything about it. I think. Like we've talked so much about stuff. I think like the script, I feel like you can't say enough about it. It's one of those things where, especially on multiple watches, like everything is set up so well. Everything just works together in such like a symphony of conflict and like escapes and payoffs and setups and everything just works so well. It's one of those movies that it's like, this is a great movie for anyone to watch who wants to learn more about structure or film or anything because it hits those beats so well and clearly without like beating you over the head with it. It's just good at what it does.
Yes.
And it's such a joy to watch it like every time. Time.
You think about the amount of exposition you have to do in a movie like this where there's a bunch of science involved and they do such a good job of like delivering that exposition in a good way. Even like when Gennaro in that first scene goes to visit that guy who's digging in Mexico or is it Costa Rica? I can't remember where they are. And you were telling me I don't speak Spanish very well at all. And the guy there, as soon as the lawyer shows up in his fancy suit, not the shorts yet, but and shoes. What does he say? Like,
oh, I bet you $1,000 that he falls.
Yeah, he's that's what he says in Spanish. Like, I bet you $1,000 he slips, which he does. And it's just great to have those little moments that break up that exposition of like, oh, well, the investors are upset and he's being sued and blah, 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 blah.
Right. And he can't do it because he's going off to see his daughter because she's going through a divorce, which is a very quick line, but it's the underlying emotion for everything for the kids' characters because they are basically going through like in that moment where Lexi says like, he left us, right? She says that like 5 times in like 2 different areas. And it's like, that's a lot of movie time to dedicate to that. And it's and like, all right, this is from the guy that we read
the subtext again.
Subtext, right? But it's solid. Mike Hill, he's a great guy. Anyways, but like, it's because like, she's not talking about the lawyer who left and just died, right? She's talking about her father and then like the deep down issues, right? And he's so good. It's like, but I'm not going to. Yeah. Right? It's like, yeah.
Dr. Grant, can you be my dad? Will you be my father? Father, if you're listening to this, you're wonderful. Thanks for being my real dad.
Can you edit this out? That'd be easy.
This is our first 15-minute podcast.
I've been keeping timestamps. It's fine.
It'll be great.
If you just take a look at these. The long CVS receipt of...
This is how to boost my voice and reduce the others.
Yeah, this really is such a great movie. Another thing I was noticing on this watch, that is another thing that just reinforces this is great for multiple viewings. The way the extras behave in the background of all these scenes. There was a thing that really stuck out to me is when Dotson gets to when he's meeting.
No one cares.
We got Dotson here.
But like prior to that, when he gets out of the cab, he leaves the door open, and I was like, "Oh man, left the door open." Like this is just a dumb actor thing. And then the cab driver comes around, closes the door, and like gives him like a hand. He's like, "What the?
I never saw that."
Shit. Like it's just like this really brief moment, and like that was all I needed. I was like, "Holy shit, this movie is perfect!" Like it really is. Like it's so good. It like stands up to all those dumb nitpicks and everything. It's so fun.
And then,
yeah.
oh no! Like the only thing I could think about that during that entire scene was like, man, that food must be really good. That's very authentic.
I was reading one that I'd never even thought about, that like in the Raptor kitchen scene, like real convenient that the freezer door's open for Tim to run to. But they pointed out that like it's actually good attention to detail because the power went off, the freezer wasn't working, and so Hammond took all the ice cream out because it was like gonna thaw. Mm-hmm. And so he probably just left the freezer door open because it's not working anyway. So then everything started to melt, and then there's ice and melted water on the ground, and then Ellie turns on the power again, so now there's ice everywhere where that water had melted. And it's just like, they were thinking of this. And also, it says a lot about Hammond's character in that first scene you meet him, where he's like, I'll fund this for 3 more years.
Oh my God.
Knowing that this is probably going to put them out of a job.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, so excited. But it's like, I just made a dinosaur park. He just doesn't think about people.
Sure. I'll budget for the next 50 years. They're like, yeah.
And Michael Crichton actually, when he wrote in the novel, Hammond's a lot more awful in the novel, but he always saw him as a dark Walt Disney, was what he said. He saw him as.
Was it Walt Disney kind of dark?
Kinda.
Okay.
Kind of
Also,
racist.
are we sponsored by Disney at all?
No.
Not anymore.
Been working on that.
Is there anyone left?
After Disney? I mean, is there anybody else?
We still got Squarespace.
Come on, Skillshare.
Survey Monkey.
Come on,
Survey
Skillshare.
Monkey.
Oh man.
You know, there's some great things you can learn from Skillshare.
Are you looking to build your Instagram following? Me too. Let's follow each other.
This is how you can get the best recording out of your voice.
What's the other one I always hear about? I used to hear about MeUndies all the time.
Go to meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Blue Apron is another one.
Audibly.
Blue Apron, yes.
Man, yeah, that's.
This is going to be great for SEO.
I'm tagging all of them.
Jurassic Park, Phil Tippett.
If you liked what we said,
Steven Spielberg.
for the low cost of $10 a month, probably.
John Williams.
Is that how much you pay?
See, says Patreon.
Well, yeah, I think that kind of wraps up Jurassic Park. There's like a million more things we could say, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could do like seasons. I've got like so many notes.
It's okay. We're going to have the post podcast in our car on the way home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll be posting a link to that as well. That's Car Talk with Zach and Jules.
A lot of swearing. I do not do well in traffic.
Sometimes it's not even talk; it's just them singing along to the radio. It's really a joyful thing.
And lots of like unbroken silence.
I actually really like this idea.
Yeah, the entire podcast is like, that was nice.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I was kind of
I really
thirsty.
appreciate you.
Yeah, I really liked. I didn't know. I was really self-conscious about what I said.
I got really excited and started hyperventilating about Jurassic Park. Am I weird?
I talked to Justin way too much.
Oh, that reminds me. We haven't received your payment for this sponsorship either, so you need to just make sure you get that to us before you leave. It'd be great.
Maybe I should go to doctor school. What do you think?
I couldn't afford to get into doctor school.
Well, so that wraps up our episode for Jurassic Park. We'll obviously talk about recommendations in a minute, but next week we will have a guest, Nicole Allen, on. Allen. on our podcast. Her last name is Al-Anon. It's not.
It's a good name.
Anyways,
That's a great name.
and we will be watching Singing in the Rain. So we'll be going from Skyscraper in her disaster trilogy. We'll end with Singing in the Rain. It's so wonderful, and I'm really excited to talk about it. But yeah, so we'll be talking about that next week. And if you want to reach out to us, our email is rewatchersonthepod@gmail.com, and our social media on Twitter and Instagram is @rewatcherspod. Follow us. We put stuff on there. And that is it. We'll take a brief break, and then we'll be back with recommendations. See you later. Welcome back to the recommendations section of the podcast, where we talk about some other stuff that we've watched this week. Not Jurassic Park, Jules. I know it's the only
All I
thing.
watch.
That's it. So this week I watched a new show on Netflix called Medical Police. I don't know if you guys have heard of it.
watch that.
Okay. It is a spin-off of Children's Hospital, which, if you know what Children's Hospital is, if you like Children's Hospital, you'll definitely like Medical Police.
Is this what Jordan talked about?
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
He
all right.
talked
I was
about
trying
it.
to remember where I heard this.
So and it's directed by David Wayne. I think all of it is directed by David Wayne. At least a good chunk of it. Who is a member of Stella.
Oh, Stella, yeah.
Oh, yes.
And the Wet Hot American Summer crew. And it feels very much like that. If you're in the mood for just ridiculous, stupid humor, but done like in the smartest way possible, like Medical Police is just a crime procedural with the dumbest people on the earth as your like protagonists, and it's so great. There's a moment in the opening episode where they work at Children's Hospital, and then they just drive and they like leave Children's Hospital and they're just in Brazil, and they're like, yeah, here we are in Sao Paulo because we work at Children's Hospital, a hospital that serves American expatriates living in Sao Paulo. And they're like, yeah, we live in Sao Paulo. We all know we live in Sao Paulo. It's just like driving. He's like, get out of my way, Brazilians. It's just like stuff like that is just like hammering you over the head. But it's so delightful. And honestly, anything David Wayne or Michael Showalter or Michael Ian Black have done, if you're into any of that, Medical Police is definitely worth a watch. But yeah, I've just been watching that and a bunch of wrestling. That's all. And I'm not going to talk about wrestling. So, Gwen, did you have anything to recommend to us?
Got more books. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So I'm still working my way through Tiamat's Wrath. This one, it's just sci-fi can get so dense and weighed down, especially the last series that I read that I won't mention the name again. I'm sorry, Tyler. But this one has just been like a palate cleanser for me. It's so light and it explains everything so well without being condescending, and it's great. But I also started Wanderers by Chuck Wendig. Ooh. It gave me my new favorite word, unfuckwithable.
I like
good memoir.
Gwen, I like you a lot. You come in, you don't say a lot, but when you do, you come in strong.
Yeah.
If you write a memoir, that's the title. Like we talked
That'll
about.
be my subtitle. Unfuckwithable.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
Yes. So the premise is sleepwalking zombies. They don't hurt anyone, and they don't like infect other people. They just walk. But if you stop them from walking, if you physically restrain them, they explode.
What?
Whoa.
Right?
Wow.
Makes you think.
Yeah.
That's a cool
That's all I'm
premise.
going to say.
How are new zombies made?
That's part of the
Oh,
spoilery
okay.
part.
All right.
That's in the sequel.
Yeah.
Just cool it, Justin.
Isn't this enough for now?
She just told us they explode.
There are a couple parts I'm a little dubious about that the author gets a little hand wavy, but we'll see.
Hand wavy.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Oh, he's like,
look
quantum entanglement. And none of the reason, like.
I mean, if you are going to hand wave something away, quantum entanglement is a great way to do it because I'm like,
Yeah, because quantum entanglement is unfuckwithable.
Yes.
Right? I don't know if I'm using that correctly.
I believe that any way it's used is correct.
It's a catch-all fuck.
That's my favorite phrase of all time. You need to like trademark that right now.
I'll get it tattooed right here.
Put that on a t-shirt, put it on the merch store.
yes. Yeah, our merch store is doing very well.
Yeah.
Very
Your t-shirt.
well.
You want people to follow your social media accounts? Well, you're going all in on this.
We have a fire festival situation on our hands right now.
Yeah. We got t-shirts. We got all t-shirts. Listen, you give us money, we'll send you t-shirts. No, they're great.
I just need some water.
It's actually pretty easy. You just go on Threadless and then like set up a store. This
Just type
plug,
unfuckwithable like into a Word document, take a screenshot of it, and then upload it to Threadless.
Isn't that how all the new Kanye merchandise got made?
Oh my god! I still.
Sorry, I didn't mean to like derail the conversation there, man.
I still go to that Kanye. I can't believe it's real. I keep thinking I dreamed about that Kanye West merchandise, and then I go look at it, I'm like, holy shit. This looks like an 8th grader's Photoshop project. It's so fucking bad.
Don't you think like one day we're just going to find out it's all been a big like joke? Like Kanye will be about to die and he'll be
it's
like,
on
it was
us.
the greatest performance of a lifetime.
I will say I hope that is true. I do think that. I think about it sometimes. I'm like, is Kanye West just our Bob Dylan? Like, is
Yeah,
he, you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, is he doing the same thing?
Or what's the name of Andy? What's the Kaufman? Andy Kaufman.
Andy Kaufman. Yeah,
Well,
the comedian who did.
I don't know.
Yeah.
and Andy Taylor. These are the 3 Andys I know.
Well, Andy Kaufman, who was like it was like this elaborate like
That's
character.
right.
Yeah.
Well, his whole thing, it was. Not to bring up wrestling again, but his whole thing with Jerry Lawler. He did
get
that
it.
We warned
wrestling
you about
thing,
this, Tyler.
Which was
Wrestling-
amazing.
Wrestling is your Jurassic Park. I get it.
Let's not go that far. I did say in a podcast recently it was my new religion. And I feel gross about it.
Oh, speaking of new religions that you feel gross about, my recommendation is for the Oculus Quest.
Oh,
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I have not proselytized anything so much in so long. Not since Pogs.
What's your favorite?
Oculus Quest, Pogs 2.
Let you Google it.
Maybe there's a Pogs game on Oculus Quest.
Don't you tempt me.
You just get the slammer. Boom.
Here's the thing. It's the one thing that like I bought this and I was like, oh, this could be neat. You know, we got it for Christmas, and then I like it because like Jules likes it more than I do. In a lot of ways.
I am amazing at Beat Saber. I don't normally like tout my skills this way.
You tout it.
I am good at it. And I'm a little embarrassed at how
No.
I was like trying to beat the campaign and I'm like, I'm gonna practice for 4 hours a day.
I can like this is how she's gonna take over the world, and I'm just gonna be right there with the soda, just like doing great, babe. Oh yeah, because like she will play something on expert and like your turn, Zach. I'm like sure. It's like pure pain, and like and I put it in like can't fail, so that like I can act like I'm cool and like finish it. But I'm like this is just painful.
So you're at least waving your arms around for 4 minutes.
Yeah, and she's doing great, babe. I'm like thanks. Oh no, but like so she loves Beat Saber. I love Synth Rider, which is just like this like 19 Tron basically things of like and like EDM music coming at you, and like you're just in flow. But then like there's these games that like will just transcend you and take you away in ways that like are not possible yet. It's like this is so weird because it's like the beginning of something. And I feel like this is what the world's going to be like in 10 years, where everyone just like, all right, I'll see you in virtual world, you know, and like everyone just pops in and like I am ready for that.
Yeah.
My body's ready. This physique, I'm ready to let go. We've been working out, and I'm like, I'm done. We got together. We promised ourselves that we could let ourselves get fat. This is what I'm doing.
Is this what we promised? I did not promise this.
Oh, was this when you were in Questland?
The virtual Jules he's made was like, we can get fat and be happy forever.
Also not denying that main. No, but like so like even like Fisherman's Tale, right? It's a cute little story, but it happens in a way that like you are playing this character within a character. It's kind of like Inception, but like in this world. And it's just like you take off the goggles and you're like, what's real?
Because you play a puppet. You're a puppet in it. And then you get out and you're like, am I a puppet in real life?
Yeah, to be fair, I am a puppet in real life. I'm very easily.
Well, that's awesome because the Quest also is like one of the only VR headsets I know right now that it doesn't require a PC or anything. It's just all self-contained, right?
Yeah, there's better games, but you have like on the Rift and other games like that. But you need a computer. It needs to be this is the most consumer pro version of something that I've seen, and has OLED like lenses, so that like there's no screen door effect, and so you're just like completely immersed.
Yeah,
and it's just like it's nice.
Yeah.
It's great.
That's really cool. That's not to get really nerdy, but it is also one of those things like the Oculus Quest. You actually can also attached to a computer, and it does improve the experience. So it's like a great way to get in, and then if you are going to upgrade or whatever at some point, you can just get a computer or whatever.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
I think we're going to wait a year, wait for Oculus Quest 2 to come out, and then just like, then we're good.
Yeah.
Then we'll never see you again.
Never again. Never again.
We'll see you in the virtual world.
Right.
We'll be too chubby to move. It's our goal.
Not if like Beat Saber has anything to say about it. It's like, that's how we close our rings now.
I'll have an 8-pack just for Beat Saber.
Doing great, babe. I'm like Wally on the chair.
Am I a puppet? She's just sitting notes for the loudest EDM.
I'm just waiting for like a burglar to come through. She grabs 2 candlesticks and like she just goes to town.
I wouldn't see him. I'd be in my Beat Saber world. What I wish I would do, and any coder can have this idea. Just give me some money for it. But I would love to like create a game where it's like a fighting game, but it's with a character who every time she goes to fight, she like blacks out and just has like a musical world that she goes into where it's like a Beat Saber type thing, and it's like a blackout and it's beautiful. And then after you're done, it shows you like what she was actually doing in the fight.
That'd be awesome.
That's what I would like to do. But
Also, she wants another app developed for her, which is just her on a beach, like with her ebook.
like physical pages I have to turn in the virtual world.
But she's like on a beach.
Oh, a digital physical book is all you want.
Yeah, that's all I want. And then I'll turn on a fan and then have like a sea breeze candle, and I'll just like sit there with a heat lamp.
And I'll be up in the corner going,
Oh my god, I love it.
Anyway, that's a quest.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's awesome. Jules, what did you have? Did you have any recommendations?
These are older books, but I'd read Cuckoo's Calling years ago and didn't realize that there were more books. So J.K. Rowling years ago wrote mystery novels under a pseudonym of Robert Galbraith, if that's how you say it.
Sounds good.
And there are 4, and I finished all of them, and they're amazing. And there's actually like a series, like BBC did a series of the first like 3, I think. And so I just binged all of those and watched the series, and it was actually a really, really good adaptation, and the books are really well written if you like a good mystery. So that's my recommendation.
Okay.
The
And
Cormoran Strike series.
Are they like self-contained? Like, are they kind of like Poirot-y in like the fact that it's like it's contained mysteries, or is it?
They do have some like holdover, or not holdover. What do I want to say? Like some plot that keeps going through, because it's like the will they, won't they sort of relationship that goes on. But it's not as annoying as a lot of other like long-going series that I've read. J.K. Rowling is just so fantastic at creating those mysteries. That's what Harry Potter is. They're just all mysteries. So very similar style, just more adult. Okay. They say fuck and things like that.
I'm in.
All right.
I wasn't
That's
in.
what you were
Now
waiting
I'm
for.
in. I want to see what J.K. Rowling can do with the fuck word. I don't know if she can reach the Chuck Wendig level that I've already been convinced of is the ceiling for the fuck word. But we'll see. I don't know.
She's not creating new words and phrases with it. That's for damn sure. She calls herself a writer. Jeez.
I love that she tried to go by pseudonym, and they're like,
It didn't sell.
It's not selling. You got to use your name. But it's still good.
I thought someone figured out that was her pen name and outed her.
Oh, maybe that's
a
what
better
it was.
story. Let's go with that.
I always assumed it was like her agent being like, "Listen, JK,
We know you got $1 billion, but we got to eat.
I got a girl that's about to go to college.
doctor
Harry Potter
school."
money's still good. But yeah, they got doctor school coming out.
Got doctor school.
She wants to join surgery club. Justin, what did you have to recommend for us?
Okay, I finished up Wild Wild Country on Netflix this week. I've been making my way through it for a while. Oh no, it was really good. I know I think I've mentioned just last couple podcasts that I've been watching it, but I finally, I finally finished it up, and yeah, if you're into something that kind of takes if you like learning about cult stuff, it's kind of cool, like it, just like on a surface level kind of thing. But for me personally, like I really enjoyed it. The podcast where we did our end of year podcast, and we talked about like how all of us who were on that podcast at the time, like we'd all left the church and everything, and like that, just that conversation that we had.
Getting real on this thing.
That podcast was, I was check
was
out the
an
year-end
episode.
reviews, and those ones are pretty heavy. But yeah, so that it just kind of fit in with like kind of looking at groups of people who come to an area and they're the other when they get there. Yeah, it's just the whole dynamic of the people from Oregon as well as the Rajneeshis moving in, and the way that all unfolded, just fascinating, and like taking those stories and thinking about my own life and us. It's really cool.
That's
so
amazing.
yeah, I definitely recommend that. One other recommendation, because I loved it. Gwen and I were just in Las Vegas this weekend for our anniversary, and we went and saw.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you. We went and saw Ka, which is one of the Cirque du Soleil shows, and I know like at this point millions of people have seen these shows, but holy shit, it was freaking amazing, and I have been super stoked about it. So if you get a chance to go see Ka in Vegas, go check it out.
I love
It's
that.
pretty great.
What is the? Because I feel like most of them are themed, right, around
Yeah,
something. What
like
is the Ka
water.
one?
So this one is the only one that I have seen, but I think it has to do with like Ka is like the god of fire or something, right? I think,
okay.
and so yeah, it's this tale of two young lovers who get separated, and
They're not lovers.
are they not? Are they?
They're
they're
brother
siblings?
and sister.
I could have
Best friends.
swore they were.
Subtext.
Did you miss those two different love stories?
You guys watch two different two shows.
Okay, the acrobats
Men
were
and
really
women, am I
awesome. Okay. The stunts were really cool. The story didn't really stick with me, but I really liked the way everything looked. The stage was fucking amazing.
Sounds so good.
Oh my
My
god!
mouth, like during most of it, I could feel it hanging open, but I was like, yeah, that's where I'm at, so I'm just going to leave it there.
Oh, I love that.
It's amazing.
Did you have to resist the urge to call it Ka?
I should have done that. It probably would have helped the
Yeah,
people in the
Pam,
audience
ask
at
you
the
not to
time.
do that.
Like, if you say Ka, you will be escorted
You'll
out.
be removed. This is not a joke. These are serious performances.
They've dedicated their life to their craft. How dare you? That sounds amazing.
You probably paid $8 thinking you were going to see a bunch of bird people. These are real people who've really trained. Okay, this isn't a joke.
it's like
You want a
$80
joke?
though,
You can go
right?
see cats.
I don't know. You bought the tickets.
We're bird people here, not cat people.
The production, like one of the ways they advertise for this, there are posters around that say like $160 million production or something like that. Like they're flaunting the number that they use to like build the set and how much all of this is costing and everything. I'm sure they've made that back multiple times at this
Yeah.
point, probably for how long it's been running. But yeah, it's really amazing.
Oh, all right. Put it on the list for
on the-
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Go do Vegas right.
Okay.
One last recommendation.
Oh, please.
Groundhog Day. The movie. It's pretty amazing. But no, because I wanted to bring up this one fact that like, how long do you think he was in that town on that day? How many days do you think he went through?
Oh, I mean, he gets so good at the piano.
That's what I
took
said.
piano for 5 years and I was still bad. So, a long time.
At least years just
But of
based
course,
on that.
he was probably practicing, and I wasn't.
But still, if you practiced every day, like when I was in college, because I studied music, and it was just like I'd practice for like 6 hours a day,
Yeah.
and still like it still doesn't stick all the time,
Right.
So
Yeah. So I read trivia on it, and like one of the producers said, like, oh yeah, he was there for about 10,000 years. And like it puts a different spin on it. It's like, oh,
it becomes way more existential and horrifying.
it becomes a
at that
horror
point, I feel
film
like.
after that. Yeah.
Gosh.
you should have learned more. 10,000 years.
That's the limit of humanity. We are fucked.
Oh, I'll take that T-shirt.
Thank you. Yeah. Far from being unfuckwithable, the human race is very fuckwithable still, unfortunately.
You'll
Who
be able
knows?
to get
Do you
with
know-
Andy McDowell, and that's it.
Or Andy Tyler.
And do you know what? That's enough. If I get with Andy, that's fine. That's enough for me. Happy Groundhog Day.
Happy Groundhog Day.
You.
Thanks for listening. And until next week, you've been here with me, Tyler Harris, and
Gwen Hammer.
Justin Hammer.
our special guests,
Jules Boulter.
And just Zach.
just Zach. Thank you
Zach
so much.
Vineyard, fine.
Oh, he outed himself.
Edit that out, Jason. Justin, get that out.
Thanks so much for coming, and I'm sure I'll have you back at some point. We'll do it again. We need to watch Jurassic Park too, right?
Oh, that's a different podcast.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's
If you
not
want to
fun.
hear me shout, we'll watch Jurassic
Okay.
World. Oh,
gosh.
super angry.
Well, thanks. Love you. Bye.